Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Stephen DeMatties, and his last name is spelled Dematties. And I was a guest on his show. I talked about Crowley with him. His podcast is the Biblical Hitmen. And if you're watching this on YouTube, X, Rumble, Rock, all these other sites. I have 3 YouTube channels now. You'll see the logo for the Biblical Hitman. So check it out. I'll put a link to this. Has great reviews. He has great guests. He has some of the guests that I've talked to. And actually, yesterday I had one of his guests because I saw that he was talking about Andre Puharich. And we did a great show, 90 minutes. So check that out. You can also listen to him talk about Puharich. Uh, Dave Smith, Puharich on the Biblical Hitman, too. So check out those links. Check this out. But today, Stephen has talked to me about kind of a topic he's interested in. I'm interested in as well, and this kind of mark of the beast and this advent of this super high tech DARPA like technology that should give at least pause or scare the living daylights out of you. So either way, it's something of very serious concern. So I'm delighted to have him on the show to talk about it. So Stephen DeMattis, welcome to William Ramsey Investigates.
Brother, this is awesome, man. This is a blessing of an opportunity to be on the show with you and just have a conversation about something I've dug into. I've been digging into it for about 4 to 5 years. And before we get into the topic, thank you for shouting out the show. I appreciate that. And the show that we had when I had you on, nothing but great feedback. If anything, a lot of the audience was like, "Wow, you got William Ramsey on the show. That's pretty cool, man." So it's something that just puts another staple to what it is I'm trying to do. Obviously, the topic today is going to be something that is very broad, has a lot of different perspectives that we're going to look at, and it's something that I've pieced together throughout the years, but just kind of going back in time around the year 2020, more like 2019 through 2021. We obviously know what really took place in the peak of those years, and it was something that definitely, if anyone was paying attention, if anyone has a critical thinking mind and can observe how the world's working, that there was something definitely in lockstep, and the world was pretty much needed consent and agreement in some sort of way to give something out to society that you needed uh, to be able to function in society. So it kind of triggered a thought in my mind, just being a Christian for 16 years, that obviously I've studied Revelation. I've done a lot of deep dives in eschatology, but it kind of seemed like you had to take something in order to function in society. And so that made me start searching, and it made me start diving into a lot of different things. And where I kind of start with my research is by looking into the big corporations and looking into the big brothers that run a lot of the just the conglomerate of things. One of those organizations was the World Economic Forum, and this was obviously an organization that became very popular around those years, especially with a lot of the things going on in social media. Everyone was pretty much on social media watching videos of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, and a lot of these players that people were not aware of that are making huge decisions in our culture and just how the world works. And it doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't, because these people are obviously superior to governments, and these governments do submit to the will of these individuals. The mark of the beast, like, what is that? Well, Revelation talks about something that is forced onto society, and one of the characteristics, if not it's something that defines the mark of the beast, is you need to have this thing in order to buy and sell. That's what Revelation really hits on and talks about. But when I was researching the World Economic Forum back in 2021, there was actually an insight report, and this is where I first started. And this insight report is called "Advancing Digital Agency: The Power of Data Intermediaries," and it was an insight report that started in February of 2022, and just having experience in the medical field and having experience in research facilities, because that's what I did on the side. It was my second job. I I I just know how the industry works. And when I was reading through this, when I was reading through this insight report, there's a lot of things that stand out, especially if you do have any kind of understanding of revelation. There's a lot of symbolism. And this was before AI was ever a thing. This is before it was really mentioned to the public. AI has always been something, a part of our internet system, the Internet of Things, and just it has some sort of agency in the permission field, and it's a part of our everyday life. It's just we weren't aware to it. So governments started coming out talking about it, organizations started talking about it, Google started talking about it, Microsoft, IBM, I mean, so on and so forth. And I'm going to try and share my screen here.
Great.
um Let me see how I can do
The
this.
web really kind of came and went. Like you don't hear much about it in the news anymore, but
Yeah.
it really is. I mean, it was everywhere and then nowhere. It's really strange. Like
Right,
Uncle Ted
right.
BlackRock has the most powerful AI by far in Aladdin. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so here's the insight report. Let me know if you can
Hold
see
up.
that.
I'm sure I have it. I'm just gonna get over
Okay.
there. Add to stage. Move add. Is that
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah, I like StreamYard. StreamYard's kinda awesome. It's like how you have the ultimate control over everything, but
It's
so
nice. You can control it, but also you don't have to re-upload anything. So like this streams to 6 places and then I'm kind of done. As long as
oh, that's
nothing
sweet.
goes wrong or anything, it's there. And like you said, I tinker around. I just change the color. I'm just
Yeah.
chatting with people. So anyway,
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
I see someone in the chat said Larry Fink, and, one thing about Larry Fink is he was a part of this World Economic Forum
That's
board.
right.
Yeah, well, not specifically the board itself. I mean, now he's becoming a part of it. We've seen that, especially with the resignation of Klaus Schwab as of recent, not too long ago, and he's working his way into being in that leadership. But Larry Fink also said something, and this is actually kind of cool because this kind of talks a little bit about the data value chain that's right here, and how human technology, will have uh, interaction with this. But if you look at the first picture, it's obviously the one symbolism here with binary code that's inside of this data chain. Larry Fink talked about this in one of the Geneva meetings that they had, and he was on stage. He was talking about this, open to the public, but he was talking about a blockchain system, and that the future of basically how things are going to be monetized throughout the system are and assets will be through tokenization. And so there,
Tokenization, right?
yeah, tokenization, right? And it's like, what does that mean? Well, it's the fact that this goes in with what they, obviously one of the slogans for the World Economic Forum. It's that you'll own nothing and be happy. And it's more like you will either rent something or be given permission to use it, but not necessarily own it. Yeah, as of recent, I think I saw something on the internet, like talking about 50-year mortgage plans.
Right.
This is something, and again, like this kind of authority and this kind of new doctrine that will be a part of society, they got to ease into it. They've got to kind of walk you into this kind of concept, because if it's just hey, this is what we're switching to, a lot of people are not going to go with it, and a lot of people aren't going to consent to it. So really how these elites work is they want you to consent to these things. And so at the end of the day, you're the one that is agreeing and allowing them to do what it is that they want to do.
Right, Stephen. The 50-year mortgage is great because I paid less $200 less a month. It's such a good deal. The 30-year mortgage is an abomination, by the way. I mean, I'm not kidding. They never should have put
Oh
that
yeah,
thing out. So
people need to start to study etymology and some of the words that we have in the English language. Where do we get the English language? Go back to the Latin and the Greek, and then so on and so forth. But mortgage actually does go all the way back to a meaning of death grip. And so this is the new form of slavery that mankind has consented to. It's no longer that you're a slave by being given food or given resources to live. It's the fact that now there is what's called debt, and there are loans, and the banks own pretty much everything. And therefore, they own what it is you think you own, unless you
Right.
have it paid
How did we
off.
consent to this? How did we consent to a mortgage and then you pay property taxes? How can you even think that that's a functioning system? It's amazing. Anyway,
I know,
but
it's
yeah,
wild.
the tokenization is going to be incredible, but they have to get our consent, right?
Yes, yes. So some of the imagery here, right? We have a cloud that's kind of looks like a rainstorm of data, but this is where we're at today. And obviously, with the Trump administration and what he's done so far, he's creating an artificial intelligent, basically hive mind system. This is, Project Stargate, over a $500 billion industry that he's creating, and the square foot of these buildings that will have CPUs and GPUs running to be able to store data is incredible. It's really is an incredible thing. It's magnificent. What man can do, or what they imagine to do, they will be able to do it, which is very interesting, because I think my connection, at least with artificial intelligence, is a way to bring the world together and bring the world into some sort of new utopia that's a new world order of some sort. And just going back to biblical theology and just stories of the Bible, and Nimrod had something similar. There was obviously the people were like, hey, let us get together, lest us be scattered, because now that anything we imagine to do, we will be able to do it. And so that's what I kind of see going on here. Scrolling down here, this is now there's a lot of right hand symbolism in this. Every hand that I see in this entire insight report is the right
Presentation.
hand.
Wow, wow. So they keep the left-handed and interesting.
Yes, yes. I mean, I can kind of maybe make a connection with the divine feminine here, but that's a stretch. But anyways, there are things that we do in our everyday life that we do on our phone now, and so the phone's at the stage where it's at. This is our digital ID, but people don't know it yet. This is how we function, and this is how we actually give consent over to intermediaries to do things. It's ran through biometrics. It scans your face now. Before it was a fingerprint, and before that it was a passcode. The passcode is actually something that you were thinking. So in a way, it's still biometric data, in my opinion. Now I'm going to try and go to here. This is another image here that I found interesting, and this is the merging of digital artificial intelligence and mankind. And this is what the main technocrats around the world really want to do. And in a way, I believe, just from studying the occult, studying some alchemy, I think this will be what will provide the world the philosopher's stone. So I think that the philosopher's stone is something that mankind has always been intrigued with. It's always been some sort of science that occultists, along with secret societies, have been on the search of. But the whole idea with this philosopher's stone is that you will be able to be like gods, and you will never die. Um,
That's really
at the end of the
profound.
day, because alchemy is, people initially are given the understanding just from culture and where it's at today, but it's where lead is turned into gold. But that concept is a newer concept. The older concept of it was basically to extract energy out of certain relics and to make elixirs out of them, and then these elixirs will be able to heal you, be able to give you great health, and you would live forever. It would limit aging and all this kind of stuff. We can see that artificial intelligence being integrated with the medical system right now, that it'll replace doctors at some point. But you've even seen, what's his name? But he's the guy who runs Oracle. Um,
Larry Ellison, is that
Larry
right?
Ellison. Yeah. So he's also talked about that artificial intelligence is going to give us the cure for everything.
Cure for cancer. He said that right next to Trump, right? Like, oh, this is
Yeah,
it. So here's the utopianism, right? They're selling this
exactly.
with utopianism. Do you know the reference of this finger touching the finger? That's the Sistine Chapel, right?
Yes, that's the
That
Sistine Chapel. It was painted by Michelangelo, and actually, that painting where God is reaching and touching the other finger of Adam, just in between there, there's a threshold of the metaphysical world and the physical world. But if you really take a close look at that painting, God's arm is wrapped around a female and then a baby. So you have ancient Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz worship being presented in that painting. And so it is nothing more than the mystery religion of Babylon. And this will play a part at some point in the future. Not quite sure what it's going to look like, but I have a general idea. And there's many different trinities that you can make uh, of different topics, but I definitely think that it's coming. Whatever it is, it's coming. One thing I wanted to explain a little bit in this entire insight report is one of the main arguments that they get into, and they talk about not arguments, but more of a general topic, but they favor one side, and that's the activity between human thinking and machine thinking, and they actually advocate for machine thinking over
wow,
human thinking,
wow.
where again, this insight report is called the advancing digital agency, power of data intermediaries. That word agency right there is very interesting, and it has a specific meaning to it. Agency is basically like I have agency over my being right now. I have agency over my consciousness. I can make my decisions. It's a part of free will. It's important to me. It's important to the human nature. And I think what they want to splice with that is machine thinking, and then in the end of that, maybe something, this gets kind of conspiratorial, but in the end of that is that the AI or the machine thinking will have agency over you. See, now my phone has Siri in it. I have agency over Siri. But at one point, when this cell phone becomes integrated with my body, now I think that Siri will have agency over me, and I think that's important to go over and to a concept to really just be aware of.
Right. Well, I'm not thinking about that. They are, though, right? They're thinking about it. It's a nice
They are
word, agency, other than overlord or whatever, or something else. Your digital overlord.
right.
Hmm.
So before even digital IDs were talked about, was actually talking about digital ID, and you can see it right here. And this whole insight report does remind me of the in the way they do these things with the timing and then the release. So they'll show you an insight report, but then 10 to 15 years later, the insight report will actually be injected or injected and infiltrated into the modern world and will be put into use. An example of that is Operation Lockstep, that's funded by the Rockefeller Foundation back in 2010, talked about what happened in 2020. But 10 years later from 2010, that's when these things actually rolled out, and they actually tested them and saw where they were at. And so with the digital identity, it consists of a lot of things. And this is basically the gist of what the digital identity is a part of. And this digital identity will be unique. It'll be unique to you. It's a part of being a identifier of the user. You're the user, of course. And how our world works today, it's all about identity. This is why we have passwords. This is why we have passcodes. This is why we have dual authentication. This is why now banks are starting to go to voice recognition to be able to get you into your accounts and things like that, which I don't advocate for, by the way, because we have artificial intelligence out there, and these things can mimic you, mimic your voice, and all of that. But
I know people who use their finger print to get into their phone or a face. I'm just like, you must not be thinking
yeah.
about the consequences, bro. Like, what if somebody emulates that face picture or something?
Oh yeah, it's so crazy. You got a lot of things here, man. There's telecommunications, financial services, food and sustainability, healthcare. A lot of these things do wrap around what the United Nations talks about with their SDGs, their Standard Development Goals, or Sustainable Development Goals. Sorry. You got government, social platforms, all these kinds of things here. You could all actually vote with these things as well. And again, these are all just part of our daily lives. And it is our biometric scanner, which is our phone, that allows us to do these things and to operate them. This is probably the most important thing here. And when I read this, this hit me really hard. And this is what really started me off on the journey to try and figure out more to this idea. But the digital ID, it shows you where they were in the now back in 2020. And it's just traditional intermediaries, right? And the use of consent, browsers, apps, and mobile devices. Well, the evolution of that would be, to shift control to the user. This, I think, would also consist of like other greater devices, smart devices. This is where I started when I heard this term, I started to research and I found the Internet of Bodies and then the Internet of Things. And you'll see IOTA, which is Internet of Things, attached to a lot of everything that's consisted in the World Wide Web. But when I actually saw agency, that word, and this is in the future now, but it says next level of data intermediaries. And right here, you see embedded in body. And so that kind of made me stop for a second. Embedded in body, embedded in devices, embedded in homes, cities, etc. So now they've really attached the digital ID to the actual user or the subject or whatever it is. And that is alarming a little bit because how I think this is going to get rolled out for something to be integrated, and why people will advocate for this is because there will be some sort of crisis. We know crises happen, and there's a Hegelian dialectic that plays part of their algorithm on how to achieve their goals. Well, there's going to be a problem, a reaction, and a solution. And I think that that's going to be Cyber Polygon. I think Cyber Polygon is going to be some sort of hack that is global, it's worldwide, it's something that DDoSes everyone from from whatever it is that's connected to their digital ID, which we looked, remember what we saw above, that's going to be your bank, everything. Anything that your phone has on it right now, you'll be DDoSed from it because of someone stealing your identity of some sort. I mean, just imagine going into your Wells Fargo bank account and there's just zero there, or just imagine you not being able to get into your Wells Fargo account. Imagine the credit cards not working anymore. Imagine the cell phones with your credit card on it not working anymore because you're DDoSed from your phone. This is something that can impact society, but then they will roll out with something to push why they need digital IDs and why they need them to be inside the body, because now it fully authenticates who you are, what you're doing, and that you are who you really are. And I think that's just really important with all this, man.
Right, the embedding though, that's kind of a weird term. Like the agency embedded, like wow, like that's really the way they're thinking about the future and its evolution too.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, some strange stuff happened during this last 5 years too, where they may have already been testing this stuff out. I don't even know. Maybe that's what you're getting to.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely, man. And that's pretty much, this insight report is, it's really dense, but from the gist of it, this is kind of where they're going towards. There it talks about, V passports, it talks about all kinds of other things. And I was like, okay, well, they obviously want to put something in the body. How are they going to do this? In what way are they going to achieve their goals? And going down this same trail, I started to look into patents, and I found a patent that was created in 2019, but it actually got patented in 2020. I mean, very unique time to get patented, and everyone's eyes were looking somewhere else when this got done. And this was a patent by Microsoft Technology, and the patent actual ID is 2020 slash 060606. So there's some interesting numbers to that. Maybe there's like
Oh,
some numbers that you can point and go, yeah, I've heard that number before. That's biblical. There's three sixes. What does that mean? And this was basically a patent, and the patent talks about cryptocurrency systems. It talks about how how that cryptocurrency this system will monitor and be able to retrieve body activity data, and through that body activity data it will issue currency and money to the user. And that to me sounded like some sort of universal income. It sounded like something that was a part of a hive mind system, maybe just, the bank of the world of some sort that would be connected to these things. And
This
yep,
is
there
it.
it
This
is.
is the beauty of the internet. We can just pull this up. There it is,
Yeah,
just like you said. WO 2020 060606A1. Another other interesting numerology. So you got the 666 and you have the 11 right there. Wow.
that is it, man.
Pray in the
And
first.
it's it's a wild document. It goes as far as talking about biomeds. Basically, biomed is like it says a sensor, right? If you go up to the top and you look at that diagram again, you can see that there's a sensor, there's a user device. It's connecting to a communications network, and it's also sending this information to a cryptocurrency system. And just how there's an arrow pointing going up, there's also an arrow pointing going down. So it is a fluid system, it's enclosed, and it's working off of body activity data. Now, what body activity data? Well, there's body activity such as, heart rate, blood sugars, brain waves, there's things like body temperature, oxygen saturations, basically anything that would give vitals and transmit them back to basically be able to draw up an avatar of you and actually know yourself better than you know yourself. It knows you better than, you know yourself, because it's actually monitoring the activity that's going on in your body. And this could be pushed, through the medical industry very easily. If we have something that is remarkable technology that's able to, like Larry Ellison said, it would be able to sense if you had cancer even before it developed. I mean, who wouldn't want to get this sensor? And how are these sensors going to walk us into something being put into us? Well, RFK talked about it not too long ago. I think it was maybe 6 months to 8 months ago, but he was talking about wearables, and he actually wants every American in the United States to wear wearables and have wearables within the next 4 to 5 years. Now, this is to monitor and retrieve body activity data. This has nothing to do with cryptocurrency yet. This has nothing to do with a monetized system yet, and or a universal income. They got to ease this stuff in. They have to normalize things before they're able to move on to the next step. And I think that through the health, because everyone wants to be healthy, everyone wants to live longer, right? It's something to bait in society to start normalizing the wearing of, this technology. You've had Klaus Schwab. This was an interview back in, I think, in 2016, where he was actually talking about, G editing before it was even a thing, before even 2020 came out, and where we actually understood that, yeah, that was G editing. But he was talking about that the evolution of these things would move to wearables, that there would be wearables in your clothes, there would be wearables in on your car, everything would be connected to everything, through wearables.
It's just incredible. I think that RFK Jr. it does have a wearable. He either has a Fitbit or something like that, which is really
Right.
incredible. I mean, it's owned by Amazon too. So like you were
Yeah.
talking about conglomerates like Ellison and these guys. These are the modern oligarchs like talking about this stuff. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
embedded intel and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So the one thing that made me very curious was the sensor. I was like, okay, there's a sensor here. I got to start doing some digging into that. Where do I find that? And so where I started was the medical industry. Obviously, this is where they have things that they're able to put into us to retrieve data of some sort. And a lot of the things that I first started looking into was, uh, you know, biomed imagery. And what that kind of consists of is, like, for example, radioactive dye, right? So they inject dye into you. They're able to see certain things, and they're able to retrieve information through that and to gather data through maybe MRIs or other imagery that they can use. And, y- you know, looking into the sensors, this is what brought me into the idea of quantum dots, and then obviously it trickled me into another idea of that is a part of quantum dots. But this brought me to an article that I read by MIT in 2017, and this is where they were actually they were very successful with this, and they were injecting what's called quantum dot tattoos, and to where this was connected to a bioluminescence, and which is very similar to a dye, but these are crystalline structures, micro needles that dissolve into your skin but leave a sigil. They leave an imprint. They leave something that is able to be unique to you, almost like a QR code, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Does that look like
And
it? So like
let me
something
see here.
goes into your body and then that leaves
There it
a
is.
mark on there. Yeah.
Yes. And so the bioluminescent thing is very wild. Now, if you look at that picture, like that's a cell phone, and that's a cell phone light. Some people don't some people don't see that. Now,
Good point.
our cell phones are unique. Okay. Number one, they're unique now because you can't take the battery out of them. They, Apple and cell phones and Samsung and all that, they did that because they don't want to detach the battery from the device anymore. Thus, even when your cell phone is off, it's still able to monitor. And if anything, your phone is also recording body activity data because you consent and you agree to do for it to do that. There's infrared lighting that is part of the phones, and there's also blue lighting that's part of the phones. Infrared light you can't see with your eyes. It's not part of the light spectrum that you can pick up. Now, how I know this for a fact, okay, because someone would probably be like, "Yeah, this guy's a conspiracy nut," but it is 100% fact. And I have an infrared baby camera that I use for my backseat and for my to watch my kid. So when I'm driving, I can still see her at night. Well, on the way home from dinner one night, my kid wasn't making any noise. Now, if anyone knows the show, they know who I am. I'm a firefighter paramedic, so I deal with like anxiety, and I deal with maybe a little bit of PTSD and stuff on a very minor scale. But when my kid was quiet, it just made me nervous, and I was like, "Hey," I told my wife, "Hey, can you please just shine the light on her and see if she's okay?" Well, she was using the backlight of her phone, and which is the front of your device. And so when she was doing that, the device was trying to pick up the face of my daughter. And as it was trying to do that, it was strobing a infrared light. And so this is how in a completely dark room your phone can still recognize that it's you. It's because it's shooting out an infrared light, it's scanning your face, and it's allowing you access into your device. I saw it on the monitor, I could see it strobing. It was quite interesting. I was like, wow.
This thing's
I've heard
operating without its agency, without my authorization, right?
yeah,
That's the
man.
whole thing that's scary. Like it's definitely using infrared stuff on you if you have an iPhone. Yeah. Wow.
Right,
That's
right.
really true.
Now the quantum dots, and you can see here, it says ID, right? It says ID at the top of the article, ID, and those
Exactly.
other, great words that we can't really say. But
Right.
they're
Shot
able
maybe.
to, and in this article it talks about records, and I think it's in the second paragraph right there. It talks about what kind of records it can hold. So these things are able to store information on it, and they're even these now this concept has evolutionized. They've learned from it, and they've developed things that are even better, and these are called QDGs, and these are called graphene quantum dots. Graphene is a very unique element. It's carbon, and it's able to have trillions and trillions of memory to store data. And I don't know if it's megabytes or gigabytes, but it is able to you're able to store data on carbon alone. One thing that I found interesting digging into carbon is that there is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons, to the
Wow.
element carbon. So there's obviously that's 666 again. Now, does that maybe have a connection with the Microsoft patent? Is that what it's talking about? Is that what the 060606 represents? There's a zero in between each six on that patent, which means they're distinguished from one another. It's not 666 yet. It's six of this, and six of this. So I'm not sure if maybe one day they'll add that into the patent, because obviously the patent is, they're continuously adding into it. I've had a talk with Courtney Turner about this, and I've had her on my show, and she is, I mean, awesome and brilliant
Brilliant,
with,
amazing, yeah,
yeah,
incredible.
she's brilliant, and she agreed with me. She's like, yeah, they are adding to this patent, and I can see it because I've known about this patent for 5 years now, and it's changing. They're molding it. And why I think they separate these things in so many different places. You got this patent here, you got this insight report here, you got another patent over here, and another one over here. They don't want to put things all, in a list in front of you. They want you to have to go search these things out. And plus these things will all converge at some point in the future. But it's a continuing project for them. This isn't solidified yet in any way, and they're doing tests, and they're doing trials with quantum dots. And what I found interesting, just reading some of the studies, is that there's a high toxic load with QDGs, and that kind of stuck out to me as well. Making the connection with Revelation and those who have the mark of the beast. There's a bowl of wrath that one of the angels pours out onto those who have the mark of the beast, and they start to develop symptoms. They start to develop medical symptoms, like they start to develop sores and hives and all this kind of stuff that you can see physically in the physical realm, uh, that this person is unclean. They have the mark of the beast of some sort, which makes me think of the toxic load that these things do carry. Now, this isn't something new. We obviously know that the world is known now for giving something and them not telling you immediately that there's a toxic load to these things, but then after the fact, then this is when this information comes out. If you kind of
Comes up.
catch
Yeah,
my connection.
I do. This article is wild because it has the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded the team's research. So this is like
Yes,
literally funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, which
right.
they've
Which,
said flat out are like follow on to the Rockefeller Foundation and all the stuff. So
yeah, and that's what makes me make another connection with the Microsoft patent. These two
right, good
things have
point.
to be
Good point.
functioning in tandem with one another.
Good point.
This is why this kind of technology is being funded and experimented with biology, is because I think the patent, they want to actually be rolled out one day. So they're working on this kind of stuff. um
It's remarkable. MIT bioengineers, like that's a new thing. And the MIT's done, there was a guy who came out of MIT where they did nanotech that would just blow your mind. He got busted, I think, sharing it
mm,
with the Chinese. I forgot his name offhand, but it was a huge scandal. But they can like bioengineer a single cell. Like
right,
that's how sharp nanotechnology is. So
right. Okay, so we're gonna make another connection here. All
okay,
right.
okay.
um Again, we know that the Microsoft company, Bill Gates, that there's a clear connection between these two patents. Well, I read an MSN article here. This was maybe 6 months ago now. Well, it says actually 3 months ago. But the head of this article, and I'll bring it up here.
Okay. I can bring it up as well.
Okay, yeah. So MSN, Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone era and unveils its surprising replacement. And
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's right
yeah, this article's makes a lot of connections with kind of the things that we're getting into. Obviously, according to Medium, Gates points to electronic tattoos that are developed by Chaotic Moon and late acquired by Accenture as the next big leap in personal technology. Instead of holding your phone in your hands, these tattoos could allow us to communicate, access the internet, and even monitor our health, all without a screen in sight. So there you go. You have health that is, I mean, one of the main proponents that they're going to roll out with this idea, and try to get people to consent to this. And you even see here that it says it's going to monitor your health. So now that pairs up very well with the 060606 patent. It's body activity data, right? That consists of everything from a heart rate to blood sugars to brain waves. It's something, in my opinion, that can connect to some sort of artificial intelligent engine or God or whatever you want to call it, something that's able to consume this data and regulate it, identify things, and always watch you all of the time, it allows that entity to now be omniscient over you, which to me, I think that, the adversary, Satan, the devil, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, that he wants to be like God. He wants to be omniscient like God. He wants to be able to have this connect to Palantir, which then will predetermine your thoughts and then know that you're going to sin. It's very
It's
similar to
like
what God
it's like
does.
a Philip K. Dick novel, man. It's crazy. A Scanner Darkly, which is a biblical reference. Like that's the whole thing about Philip K. Dick. I don't know if you know him, but like he predicted all this stuff in fantasy before,
Oh,
pre-crime and
wow.
constant monitoring. But if the Bible reference is from Paul, I forgot which epistle it was, but he says, we see through a lens darkly, we see through a prism darkly now. And then Philip K. Dick modernized it and said, we see through a scanner darkly. Like it's really clever. Like Philip K.
Yeah.
Dick he was a theologian, but with the knowledge of this kind of technology you're talking about, it's really crazy. One more thing I'd like to add, just like a quick scan through this document,
Hmm.
which if we get to the very end of this, there's really interesting graphs, but it looks like this thing, you'll be attached to a thing, but then at the end, you'll get awarded cryptocurrency. So if you're a good little boy, you will get some kind of like digital reward. Like they have it
Yeah.
set up as a digital reward system. So it's not just taking away, but here's a few little,
Oh, yeah.
Bitcoin. I don't know what it is.
Sure. And maybe it might just be one currency or maybe 10 different currencies that will run through one blockchain. And again, the blockchain is something that's interesting because everything is going to be connected to the blockchain. Everything is going to be time stamped. Everything is going to be logged.
Right.
There's
It's
nothing.
really crazy, guys. Like, I mean, imagine like a full ledger of your life, Like that's what's really crazy. Like
Right.
they can
Everything's
go
on
back,
record.
right? Everything, your whole life on record. Like there's going to be some kind of counter movement that people were like, I don't want to opt in at all. Like it'll be a biblical thing, like you say, like Revelation. Like I don't want to take this thing. I don't want to have a constant, you know,
Hmm.
ledger of all my actions and all my body stuff or whatever. I mean, it's just off the charts.
Right. And
Like I'm kind of like a semi. I mean, I've
yeah.
had real I mean, they went through my whole life. I'm 57. Like they really did. Like I'm some kind of like on. I don't want to get into all the details, but I've had people go through like my whole past and imagine being that for each person. Like you have no real autonomy anymore. You don't seem to have any no autonomy to make mistakes, no autonomy to like the freedom is sometimes the freedom to make mistakes. Or
Right.
just like why do people touch a hot griddle? Like almost all kids will touch a hot griddle because they'll say dad will say it's hot, but they'll do it because they want to know what it really is. So it's like I don't know, man. It brings up really heavy duty, like humanity questions about who we are that you're going to have a full ledger on you. Like that, it's a real changing image of man, if you will, or it's incredible. Like this is such an important topic. So I'm glad you brought this,
Yeah, bro.
glad
Yeah.
you're here and brought it on the show.
Yeah, man. And were you able to find that MSN article?
Is this it right here? Can you see that? Is that the one that you're looking for? Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone. Can you see that on the
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes. Okay, wait, let me pull it up here. Yep, that's it. So right there, that second paragraph, it these it's clearly stating that these electronic tattoos, number one, will have all the functions of our cell phone. Again, he's implying that the cell phone era is dead. There will no more be cell phones. Again, we have agency over Siri. Okay, I think this is part of this plan where it'll be too late once you consent and once you just give your will over to this thing. But and it might not be like that immediately. But then again, just as our phone has updates, so won't this electronic tattoo have updates? We don't know the implications of that. Um, it says that basically these things will be integrated almost like a mark.
Right. It's a
And it will
it's
be
well,
powered by tiny nanocapacitors. Well, let me just explain something. Quantum dots are basically little semiconductors that are so similar to what we have in our computers today. These are fabricated of the same elements almost. Now, one thing about quantum dots, and again, this is just talking about a tattoo, right? And I made this connection with the patent because this could be something that senses, body activity data. Um, well, right down below, if you go to, it says, how do these tattoos work? You can see right here that these tattoos could also monitor vital signs like your heart rate, body temperature, and even detect potential health issues before they become serious. They'll be almost invisible, and you won't even know you have this. Imagine getting a phone call and you don't have to slide, right on your phone anymore. You don't have to hit the green button anymore. But yet there's something that pops up on your optics, how you are seeing through your eyes, almost like a HUD. And a HUD pops up, and then with what you think you're able to do, that there, again, what man will be able to think, they will be able to do. This is exactly why God destroyed the Tower of Babel, because of a very similar concept. So if you have a phone call coming in, you could just think it and you'll be able to do it. Now this connects as well, and this is so crazy because I think that I think these things are starting to come out, at least for the people that know about this stuff. You can discern it and you can spot it when it's talked about on major podcasts. So on Joe Rogan podcast, he had on Elon Musk. Musk was actually talking about that AI will be integrated with you at some point, which is Siri, for example. Okay. And anything that you think of, the artificial intelligence will be able to do for you. But he claimed as well that the artificial intelligence will know what you're about to think before you even think it, which is
Really
crazy.
crazy, yeah. Like it knows you better than you know yourself. So it would know your habits or something like that. Like every
Right.
day at 8 he calls his mom or something. So like at 7:58 he's gonna be ready for the phone or whatever your AI avatar is or whatever. Like
Yep.
just I mean, I don't know. Is that's a whole nother invasion of an autonomy, like more too much agency over another individual. Like
Yeah.
what goes back to what it is to be a human. Like, this is a classic kind of
Yeah. Well, I think what they're doing is
questions.
they're building a system. Okay. They're trying to build a utopia. This is what you'll hear all the technocrats actually talking about. And this is what they're actually starting to promote now, especially with all the artificial intelligence, Palantir, Stargate, Anduril. You've got all of these guys that were a part of this PayPal mafia, okay, which now they've split up and they've diversed themselves to start other companies that will come back home. It's almost like they were like in a reformation period. Now they're in a new reformation. They're coming back. It's all going to make its way back to an economic level. It's going to come back to a universal income. The main thing is to get something out there into the public so that once it's a part of the public now it will come back to the idea and the definition of the mark of the beast, which is buying and selling. That's what I think, and that's what I think these people really want to do. They're not talking about it. It's a part of the past, what they've been a part of with being in the PayPal industry and the digital currency agent, industry and all that stuff. And this electronic tattoo will deal with digital security, and it says here digital security could take on a whole new meaning as cyber criminals may look for ways to exploit this deeply integrated tech. Also, still there are undeniable advantages. The tattoos could replace the need for passwords, credit cards, or even physical keys. In theory, they could provide a level of security that's far more robust than anything we have today, thanks to their biometric uniqueness. So again, there's going to be a lot of good things that come out of this. And what is going to pair up with this? Okay, if there's something that's a part of us, well, it's got to connect to goods. and services, and how is that going to work? Obviously, if I have an E tattoo and you have an E tattoo, there's compatibility there. We can transfer data. We can work together. But how is this going to work for something that is at Walmart? Or how is this going to work for something that maybe I sell to you? Well, this brought up there's another patent here. And again, this is just a maybe a precursor of a lot of this, but this is a patent, and it's by Quantum Materials Corp. This is a corporation, and it's actually the patent's called using quantum dots for identification, authentication, and tracking of objects.
Well, let me see if I can pull it out. Quantum
Yeah.
dots.
If you type in 2021 055 645
055645.
5A1.
There it is.
So you'll be able to probably bring this up.
Yeah, let me see. It's on. It's there.
So there's a
Unless you brought it
diagram.
up. Did you bring it up? No.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
Oh, got it?
It's
Okay,
just
cool.
it's taking its time there. Does that look familiar?
That's
see
it,
that on
man.
the screen? Okay, cool.
That's it.
This is technology. We're doing this manually. We don't have AI or a quantum dot on our tattoo on our
Right.
arm yet. It hasn't
Right.
predicted what we wanted. We're actually having to actively take the steps to actually get something done.
Right. We can do it on our own. We're
Yeah.
good.
Imagine that. It's almost like a godlike power. Imagine just like think this, like wow. Like,
Right.
and then all of a sudden the stuff pulls up. Wow. Yeah.
Now I will get into it too, man, because I think there's a spiritual application of this. This is all physical. This has to do with the laws that we live within. But I think there is a metaphysical part of this that actually the occult talks about. I mentioned earlier the philosopher's stone, but I started to dive into Eastern religion, and I think it's going to get wrapped up into this. But I'll get to that right after this. If you look at what is claimed, right, and there's multiple steps here. It says applying quantum dots to an object wherein the quantum dots have an identified spectral response pattern and recording data associated to the object and the identified spectral response pattern. So again, I didn't mention this earlier about quantum dots, and I saw on Twitter that this is starting to get out, and I've been speaking of this for a while. And again, I don't take credit for any of this. This is information that's out there. I'm just glad people are actually starting to talk about this. But quantum dots why is it quantum? Well, quantum basically means that it's something that is almost smaller than the subatomic level. It's something where we have three realms. We have the physical realm, we have the subphysical realm, and then there's the metaphysical realm. There's a threshold that sits right in between the subphysical and the metaphysical. Physical is something that I could see. It's objective. I know that there's a cup on the table. I know I'm looking into a teleprompter right now, and I know I can see you. The subphysical is like, it means that I have to use something in the physical realm and manipulate it to see the subphysical, aka microscopes, electron microscopes, things of that nature, to where I can see organisms, I can see atoms, I can see things that my eye could not see, but are a part of our realm. The metaphysical is what we cannot see, but it does exist. And this gets into why the occultists are so intrigued by the work that they do, because they're actually using the metaphysical realm to manipulate the subphysical realm. Magic, right? It's almost like that story from Moses, where Moses and Aaron, they go, in front of Pharaoh. Moses casts his staff down on the ground, and through the power and the miracle of God, he changes it into a snake. Well, the Pharaoh had magi's. You had two of them in that story. And those two magi's.
Janus and Jambres, right? They're actually mentioned by name by Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not mentioned in the Old Testament. Their names aren't mentioned in the Old Testament, but Paul mentioned it in one of his things. So he knew.
Wow. He knew the story, and he knew.
Yeah, but 1,200 years later. So he's writing that in like 1st century AD. And Moses, when did Moses happen? God, 1200 BC or something? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
14. My dates up, but it's supposedly somewhere around there. Sorry.
Right, right. And what's crazy is that they were able to do the same powers that God was able to do. They were able through their the magic arts that they specialized in whatever alchemy it is that they were able to do. They casted their staffs down as well, and they turned into snakes. So this is using the metaphysical realm to manipulate the staff on such a level that you would be able to change it into what you were able to think, because that's how it worked. The magi's were casting their staffs down, knowing that their thoughts were trying to turn it into a snake, because they wanted the
Right.
snake to kill the snake. They wanted to have show that their power was greater than Moses's God's power.
That's right.
Um, but basically, this patent kind of talks about identifying objects, right? Authenticating them and tracking them. So this doesn't specifically talk about biology. We're not talking about quantum dots going into, you know, flesh, biological beings. We're not talking about that. We're what they're talking about is goods, something on a shelf. So this to me seems to be like the new and improved version of barcodes.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
That's exactly what it's going to do. And it actually starts to talk about in this patent that from its birth, pretty much, of a good, this is where it will be stamped and have quantum dots connected to it, to where it will authenticate who it came from, when it was made, all that kind of stuff. And it's almost like a birth certificate for these things.
And they
And
have little cases like in the these documents are worth reading, but it's like buyer wants to authenticate a product. Sure, no, it's really from a proper company. A buyer can use the systems and methods of present disclosure to validate the product to ensure the product is authentic, not counterfeit. So it has all these little things that like shows how the real world application would be of these quantum dots, right?
yeah, yeah, it's not like you can go to the Bahamas and get a fake Gucci bag anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's
Good.
like
As we say, they have it right here. Got the drawing of the Gucci bag.
exactly, man. But if you take that whole concept and you put it into, instead of goods or products, you put people there, it would be
Right.
something that would be not too far fetched with the other idea of an electronic tattoo. I
Yeah,
wanted
we should have
to
we should have put a quantum dot on Biden to see if he was really the real Biden or which Biden it was, which Biden it was during the Biden administration.
yes, man.
Like, is it the tall
That's
one?
great.
When they brought out the one that was like 6'4", it's like, God, did he grow another 4 inches? Holy smokes.
I know, right? Yeah, some weird stuff
Anyway,
going
but
on,
yeah,
man.
sorry.
One thing I was referencing earlier is quantum. Like it's smaller than the subatomic, right? Almost. Well, quantum dots, they're tiny synthetically manufactured i- semiconductors, like I was saying. Now, the size of these things, to give you an illustration of how small these things really are, okay, is that they range from quantum dots range from 2 to 10, um, what is it?
Microns,
Nanometers. I'm sorry. So
nanometers.
2 to 10 in diameter, nanometers, and it goes from those sizes, 2 to 10. There's two, three, four, all the way to 10. Now, the size of the average red blood cell is 30,000 nanometers in diameter. That's the average diameter of the size of the red blood cell. So we're talking about something that's 1/30th of the size of a red blood
It's
cell,
incredible.
which is wild to me. And it has all these capabilities. You could store information on it. Now, the one unique thing that is a part of these quantum dots is that they they get excited when they're exposed to light. Very, just like we saw in the MIT article, that there was a cell phone shining on the microdot and needle, and it was showing a symbol, right? It was showing how many was there, whatever the symbol, you know, is fabricated to look like, it'll show that. But the thing with quantum dots is that they get excited and they produce a light. The quantum dots range from 2 to 10, and within each of the sizes, 2, 3, 4, 5, uh, they're all independent with the different light that they give off when they are exposed to both blue light and infrared light. So you could have all different kinds of sizes of these things inside of you, moving throughout you, attaching to receptor sites, figuring out body activity data. And when you go, let's say, for example, these things go back to the hive mind, which would be the electronic tattoo, right? They go back to the queen, then the queen or the electronic tattoo would display a sigil and displayed image of different colors, almost like a very unique QR code to give you the information that you've requested. So if I want to go, hey, what's my blood sugar level? Well, the quantum dots will be sent out, possibly from like this e-tattoo, and go hook up to different receptor sites, retrieve that body activity data, come back to, you know, uh, the queen or the electronic tattoo, and it'll display a sigil. It'll display with the lighting what your phone will pick up and transmit it into whatever you were trying to retrieve. It'll give you your blood sugar's 93 or something like that. Because when you go from 2 to 10, it's each light is part of the light spectrum. So it'll be red, blue, yellow, green, orange, whatever, all the way to 10. And it's when I looked at these things in vials, because the guy who actually, I think, I forget his name, but in 2023, he actually got the Nobel Prize for creating these things. And he had a whole display of them. And again, quantum dots are used with televisions. Just to give you an example, they're used as a pixel. Their quantum dots are used in televisions to give you such an incredible picture because of how they're able to illuminate light as a pixel. If I have a if I've got 10 vials in front of me and I've got different sizes of quantum dots in each vial, it'll light up literally the color of the rainbow, if that makes any sense.
I think so. Does it sound like the guy's name was Alexei Yekimov or Bawendi or Bruce?
I think
I
so.
don't know.
So
Oh, maybe I
let
don't
me
know.
look up.
No, those are the laureates. I think those are, who did they give it to? I don't know who those guys. But there is definitely something here about the quantum dots.
And just to give you like an illustration, I'll try and let me bring this up. Okay. I'm gonna try and bring it up here on.
Do you have time to go through some comments? A lot of people are talking.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
For people who are listening, there's multiple streams, so when you comment on one, they all get centralized, and you should see them on the screen watching. But there's different places. So I have 3 YouTube channels: X, Rumble, and Rockfin. So there's multiple places where people are talking, but they all come together on my StreamYard thing here.
So I just shared requested.
Okay. There we go.
You'll kind of see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's it. Gotcha. Finnegan, sold us our chains back. Yes. Jack Delaney, debt is bondage. Always has been, for sure. That's why they have us all in debt. It's all intentional. It's all by design. AI can an insane amount of data. That's very true. It really can. Notice how all phones have permanent batteries. Yeah, they don't want you to shut it off ever. You had to get a Faraday box or some kind of Faraday bag. Mind Hacker, great speakers. Thank you. Yeah, Steven's doing a great presentation. Tad's streams a tad choppy. I don't know. I don't sense that. Xflux, isn't the etymology of the philosopher's stone that it was the jewel that fell from Lucifer's crown as he was cast down? I don't know. I just lost Steven. Paramount and CBS 99. Great interview. Thanks, Jack. Finn, the Antichrist will have no need of a womb. We will be batteries. We kind of are in a lot of ways. Where I think we're seen as kind of like ads in an ant farm or whatever. Mind Hacker, bring me back to 2002. Yeah, I appreciate those old kind of nostalgic, like I'm 57. The nostalgic things of the past really are kind of are filled with a good kind of nostalgia for me, like kind of the present day with the phones and everything. We used to have fun just farting around and doing fun stuff, but it seems to be lost. Like everybody's just staring at the phone. Order up KO, yes, order up KO for sure. You can't rob the poor lots or pervy stuff through distressing invasive LOL. That's true. Catholics thought the eyeglasses were the devil with VR. They might have been right. Yeah, perhaps Uncle Ted is back.
Hey, buddy, not sure what
Hey,
happened there.
no worries. I'm just reading some of these out, just saying hi to everybody. Thanks for everybody for listening. 180 live listeners. Like I said, on multiple sites. I've heard people are having problems with notifications on YouTube. And one of the problems may be that you have subscribed or hit the notification button on one or more of the sites. That might be it. So you're getting multiple notifications from different sites. I have a William Ramsey Investigates, and Ramsey Investigates V2. I also uploaded, since I've been kicked off of YouTube, they added this podcast function. So I downloaded my podcast. So I have my live streams on one thing, and then I have like so many podcasts. It's over 1,000 that I uploaded. So that they may be notifying some people of each one of those podcasts that I uploaded. I don't know, but I apologize. But I do. You now can listen to my podcast on YouTube if you like. You don't have to go to Spotify, Spreaker, whatever. That option is available. So just a little bit of housekeeping there.
Nice.
Let's see. Yeah, where you're gone, people had really nice comments about you. Great guest.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
So check out the Biblical Hitman. I'll put a link there too. We're not done. I'm just taking a little pause to get through these notes. CARES Act 2016. They want smart tech in all our houses and fridges. Yeah, that's right. I think they want some kind of wearable embedded thing, just like Steven's talking about. Mm-hmm. Hey, Fire Pixie, hello. Xflux again. I've seen talk of real-time hormone control through a bio-AI surveillance system. Imagine that. You're just walking around with skeptical thoughts, so your body is flooded with estrogen. Yeah, that sounds terrifying. I think you're right. That's the whole thing. The way they're presenting this utopia to us is like you're going to have no cancer and live forever, but then like there's some sinister person like Larry Ellison or Bill Gates saying, yeah, let's turn this guy into schizo, or like imagine like weird things that happen to like overdoses of estrogen on people or whatever. Like, wow.
I have a theory of why the utopia as well, man. I think it's a credible theory, man. It's so Alex Jones went on Joe Rogan's show. This had to be a few years ago now. And he went on there and he sounded obviously all Alex Jones, right? It sounded kind of out there. But I think he's right. And he's talking about these elites and these powerful groups that they're actually taking a lot of brain altering drugs, for example, LSD, I mean, psilocybin, it goes on and on, ketamine, whatever you want to call it.
Adderall.
Yeah. And they're actually getting into this state of mind where they're actually practicing magic, believe it or not. And they're actually going into an astral plane. They're going into the astral realm, and they're actually having conversations with these entities. We know that there's occultists, especially you came on my show talking about Aleister Crowley. There's a lot of these, especially New Agers, Theosophists. They all have had the same experiences. They've all connected with these entities, these ascending masters, these things in this metaphysical world that they go and they talk to, and they are given an agenda. They're told by these ascending masters or these entities, whatever you want to call them, that we need to do something here. We need to establish a utopia, and we will come back. And so I think that's why the digital age technology, the fourth industrial revolution, of why it's been a slow drip process through the past 250 years, is because it's getting to it. It's coming to this prophecy, if you want to call it, right? They want this utopia because it'll usher in their return, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Alice,
return, No, I think that they covet these entities and stuff like that. You see that in Lucifer Rising. Like at the end of it's supposed to be about Lucifer, but the way he has it ended, it's a ritual in Egypt, and then the saucers return, like the entities return. Like that's Like, what's a UFO doing in this so-called Satanist thing? Well, there's a reason, because he knows what they represent.
Yeah,
That's the thing that blows people's mind. Is like,
you're right.
yeah,
And I think that there's something to Nimrod's story, why he was building the Tower of Babel. You know, a lot of people think that it was a tower with an exterior spiral staircase going up. But really, if you look at it from a 30,000-foot view, it looks like a pyramid. It's more of a pyramid shape. This actually makes a lot of sense with why all the cultures after the Tower of Babel, in that dispersion through the confusion of language, that you had all these different cultures starting to build ziggurats and starting to build pyramids throughout different areas of the world, because they're trying to create the same thing. They're trying to imitate what Nimrod was doing, which was in some sort of way building this utopia, but also building some sort of piece of architecture that was able to make that connection to bring the metaphysical world here. And that's the same kind of idea. The ascending masters coming here is bringing the metaphysical world into our world.
exactly. Yeah, they're building their own stairway to heaven up the pyramid
Yeah.
to the very top. This is crazy. One of the things, I'm looking at this document, they literally use the word sigil in 108. So it's literally a magical term. Sigil is a magical thing. If you know what a sigil is, some people don't, but it's like a sigil is a way to take patterns or numbers and make a symbol, and it becomes a sigil, and supposedly gets charged. And so then, if you're in the occult and you want to like actualize something, you make a sigil out of it, and then that kind of actualizes whether you want money or power or whatever. So it's
What's
interesting.
interesting too about that same patent there, if you're still on the ID authentication one, whatever it is, it actually, these quantum dots are able to connect to the blockchain. They're able to connect to what's called a quantum dot ledger.
Yeah, it's 118 right here.
Quantum wallet.
Yeah, quantum ledger is 118. You see that kind of where my mouse is, and then to build the sigil 108. Get the consumer, create individual profit, and then we'll build a sigil and assign a token. We're not magicians. We're not building the Philosopher's Stone or whatever. The ideal society. Wow. Anyway, let me get back to some of these comments just to acknowledge people. Uncle Ted, thanks. You've been on a lot of my recent streams, so I appreciate it. Talk about the ultimate psyop. Imagine how secure people would be if they knew or thought they were getting cancer. The psyop is that way too. That's how they get the money out. If you're like a cancer doctor, Bob, you got about 6 months to live, but we can extend it if you throw down $50,000 or whatever. There's very good results I'm hearing about fenbendazole and ivermectin on people who have any disease, but RFK, disappointing. RFK is part of the club. Yeah, they all got morphed. They just lied to get into office. Trump was part of it. It's just like the agenda continues. Doesn't matter who's in office. Let's see, Flux. 23andMe is a scam. It certainly turned out to be a scam because they sold all of their people's data to China. How disturbing is that? Put people into spreadsheets. Turn the phone on airplane mode before turning off. He's 100% correct. Jesus is not God Christ. I don't know what that means. Sometimes when I go to hang up my phone before I sleep, I still see static all around me. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The phones are all listening. There's no question. Depending upon what app you have. They're using LiDAR. Yes, they are. They sure are. The graphene, this is Ray Douglas, the graphene and nanotech in the bloodstreams will communicate back and forth with wearables. Yes. Graphene oxide is very important. I think that you can get it out of your body too. I forgot what it was. I think charcoal or something like that. Flux, Xflux. I can't see your posts on YouTube, but wait till you find out that earbuds are used to scan your mind and will alter your feed just like audio-visual data. I'm not surprised. They are one or two iterations of technology beyond what the public has, guys. And this is part of this, what Stephen is showing is part of this whole thing. There's a WEF video of some lady bragging about ordering a pizza with nothing but your AirPods in mind. Great. Ted is a regular viewer of Operation Garbage Can Dude. Great podcast. He just had JJ on here. Yeah, JJ. I reposted one of my old videos with JJ from 2018. Can't even believe it. She's great. Yeah, she's talking about what's her name? New Meta Wrist is insane. Keep in mind, those who take the mark have to actively worship the beast too. It's not something they can just sneak up on you. Interesting. That's Xlux. Microsoft was Linda Gates' nickname before. Oh, right, that's a joke. So a top line. I don't take vaccines from people that believe in overpopulation. Call me a conspiracy theory. Good idea. I wouldn't either. Let's see. Yeah, Peter Thiel is going around giving Antichrist sermons. On that note, I am having Joe Simhart on my show, who was a cult deprogrammer, and we're going to talk about Thiel and the Antichrist. We're scheduled sometime, I think, in early December. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about that subject. Very important.
Yeah, Peter Thiel is actually throwing a huge Gnostic twist on his presentations, by the way. How he's doing that is he's basically saying that people, for example, like this show right now that we're talking about with this idea, saying that, or even saying that Palantir is going to usher in the Antichrist, he's actually saying that the people that are doing that are trying to usher in their God. In a way, that means that the Christians are saying that this, with the Antichrist coming, the return of Jesus Christ is coming. So with the Gnostic idea with that is that Jesus Christ is the demiurge. So he's saying that we're trying to bring in there's a complete twist on it, and it's a huge psyop in how he's doing it, and it's reverse psychology. So that's why it's kind of hard to kind of understand maybe what I said.
It's no, but it's like a clever twist, right? That's his whole
Yeah.
thing. It's like instead of coming out and doing something obvious, he does it like an educated guy would do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what Palantir's lavender program is? I don't. Do you know that?
Palantir's lavender program? No,
Yeah.
I
Can you
not.
see that comment, Ray? I don't know.
I see
what
it
that is,
right
Ray.
now. Yeah.
Like the incredible melting man. Why are so many Christians going along with this? They can't see it's satanic. A lot of the Christian church has been infiltrated, guys. A lot of weird stuff. Like I'm watching these Candace things about the Charlie Kirk thing, and it's like they're all intel, ex-military connected, weird connections, and deep state type stuff.
Oh yeah. So what he's talking about with Palantir is they're basically the Israeli defense contract that they have with them with the whole thing going on out there between the two parties.
Right.
Basically, Palantir's
conflict.
helping them through that.
Right. That's a nice way of putting it. Absolute total control. I think that's really the goal. Is like our autonomy will be overcome by agency through embedding, just like Stephen's saying. There will be a split off. Not just Christians, and many will be fooled. Some even non-Christians don't want to be a slave to the beast. Yeah, I don't want to be a slave to the beast. Self-replicating nanobots. That's where we're headed to. Yes. They will perfect this in third world countries, which I'm sure they've already been beta testing. That's kind of what they did with a lot of the shots, is they rolled them out in third world countries first. Recent David Cronenberg film, Crimes of the Future. Tattoo. It already is of the tattoo culture. So the tattoo, if people take a tattoo, why wouldn't they take the quantum tattoo or whatever? Utopian, Brave New World, Idiocracy, yes.
The movie's hilarious.
Wow.
Idiocracy.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's an apartment complex here where I am that doesn't issue a physical key. You rely on your phone to open your apartment, access amenities, etc. Wow. I guess everybody has a phone now. Xflux, have you guys seen the military drones that are fused with human brain tissue? No, I don't want to see that. I was not aware of that. Quantum computers used to communicate with entities in another realm. Possibly they're doing all kinds of times. Jack says, WR spent time in the book. I've spent a lot of time in the book. I know it pretty well. I need to always go back and always find something new in scripture. Stephen, real-time inventory tracking of everything and everyone. Yes, so that's the message to you from Ray.
Yep.
Colors already codified, hence the color picker matched your template. Has anybody heard of Sabrina Wallace? What are your thoughts? That's Bonnie. I don't know who's Sabrina Wallace. Do you know who Sabrina Wallace is, Stephen?
No.
Uncle Ted, great stream. Thanks, Uncle Ted. Appreciate it. Share it if you get the chance. Go check out the Biblical Hitman. You'll see a lot of other episodes on topics kind of like this there, so check it out. Hey, Carl, welcome. Interesting. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carl. Hey, Donald, great show. What are your thoughts on scripture that says that people will desire to die, but death will flee from them? Do you think they will promise eternal life through the mark? What do you think, Stephen? You want to answer
I
that?
do, and I think what's so the correlation between what happened in the garden, what so basically my idea is what happened in in the beginning will happen in the end. So what happened in the garden and what the serpent was trying to and which he did beguile Eve with was the fruit or the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And with this fruit, he promised in a way, not he said that, surely you shall not die and you will be like God and you'll be like gods. And so with the mark, I believe there will be the same concept as well. So surely you shall not die, and you will be like a god. Anything you imagine to do, you'll be able to do. So I think that there will be some sort of eternal life from it. And I think that it's because in Revelation it also talks about that those who had the mark seek death and they could not find it, which also plays a part in the whole concept of the show was agency. Obviously we were getting into the specifics of sensors and things like that, but the main goal of it is to detach you from the driver's seat of your consciousness so that you will no longer be able to make decisions. And I think why biblically it says that those who have the mark of the beast are also casted into the lake of fire with the false prophet and the dragon is because you will not be able to make a decision for your soul. You've chosen who you identify with, and therefore you've been detached from your agency. In a way, you've been removed from the driver's seat and put in the back seat. And so someone else, something else is driving the vehicle. You can see this with maybe a zombie theory, right? It's the person, but they're not themselves anymore. If anything, there's something else driving the consciousness of that zombie. And the zombies do what? They change and they're no longer themselves anymore because they get bit. The bite is a mark. So that's kind of like my concept with that. And then this is actually gets in, it's a great question because this gets into the spiritual part of this whole thing. And like I mentioned earlier, government, society, the kings of the earth always give something to society, but they never tell you the repercussions of it or they never tell you the symptoms of something. This is something that you figure out later on. And we saw that in 2020 and all that kind of stuff. So they will push this idea that this is safe, effective. This will make you like a god. This will make you
Cure
accomplish anything.
cancer,
Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. But they'll leave out the bad part, if that makes sense.
sugar coated. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Thanks for the comment, Donald. Really appreciate it. Glad you're here. Donald was one of my older streamer listeners until I got punted.
Oh, nice.
Luminesca Lux, don't they return and then reset? What returns and resets? I don't know. Donald, I think that that could be the great temptation that the book of Revelation says will come upon all during the tribulation. Tribulation, yeah, maybe. It's probably that temptation. You shall be
Yeah.
as gods is a temptation, right?
Yeah. And why I think there's like an eternal aspect of this idea, this concept of the mark of the beast is right there in Revelation 13, about two-thirds of the way down. This is where you have the false prophet, gives life unto the image of the beast. And now the image of the beast is able to both speak and do miracles. And those who do not worship the image of the beast are to be killed. And then right after that, it says that he causeth all, both small, great, rich, poor, you know, in prison, not prison, whatever it is, to take and receive this mark so that those who have the those that don't have the mark won't be able to buy and sell. So what is the image of the beast? It's something that has eternal life. Like it's been given life because I believe what was just before that image of the beast was the man of sin who took the fatal head wound, was, is, and is not, but then is again. You see that there's an apotheosis ritual that's taking place there. There's a death, there's a and then with that death you go down into the underworld. There's a purification process, and then you go up into the heavens and be with the gods, and then that reincarnated spirit is now living through whatever comes after that. And what comes after that is the image of the beast. And basically all the kings of the earth turn their power and all everything that they basically had control over to this beast, and who can make war with him, because he's showing that he's God, he is eternal. And if you have the mark of the beast, I think you'll share something that is a part of him, which is eternal life of some sort, and you're connected to him in some sort of way, if that makes sense.
Donald also adds, I think it was David Spangler of the UN who said everyone would have to take a pledge to worship Lucifer to enter the new age, and Mark is tied in with the worship of the beast and Satan. Yeah. Spangler was like a UN advisor. I don't know if he's still alive, but total Luciferian New Ager. I mean, that's a whole nother show, but he's like really some great show. Thanks, Rat. Great show, some freaky stuff. Yeah, it is freaky,
Yes,
but it's
thank you.
important. We have to consider and think about these things. Like, what are we going to do before it's like presented to us like in a shock? Like, oh, I didn't know this was coming. Ray said, sadly, many people will be happy and excited to receive the mark tattoo. Yes, they will. They definitely will. AP gifts. I think the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is a metaphor for the occult. Yeah, maybe. The occultists, they always turn the phrase. They always call it the tree of knowledge. So God is keeping man from the tree of knowledge, but it's not in the Bible. It's not the tree of knowledge. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's distinctly different. But if you see people like Leary and all their complaints and digs against the Christian tradition or the Jewish Christian tradition, they always leave out the knowledge of good and evil. So they always are thinking like God is keeping from knowledge, and that's the whole kind of archetype of Satan or Lucifer, is that he brings fire from heaven to give people knowledge to become like gods.
Yeah, and I think the technology is going to exploit the occult powers, if that makes any sense.
I think you're right. It's interesting. Like I did the show with Dave yesterday on Blue Arch, and he's like acknowledging that a lot of his stuff is magic. He like cites the Key of Solomon, so they're going back into ancient magic texts, and they just rephrase a lot of this stuff. So it's like this is kind of like you said, like this nano stuff is almost, because magic is, you're in certain aspects of magic, you're reordering the world outside of the physical realm, and in some ways this nano stuff is like that. It's so small, or such like a kind of shaving off the physical world into such tiny parts. So it's really something else. Anyway, that's all the comments. Thanks for listening, everybody. We are not done. I think Stephen still has a little bit more things left in his presentation.
No, yeah, thank you everyone for with all the awesome comments and input. It's a lot of fun, man. I like interacting with other people out there.
Yeah, it's
like,
good. You don't have to listen to me ask you questions all the time. So it's other people can do.
I mean, well, it sounds like you got a pretty jam up, crew that hangs out with you all the time, man. So that's cool, and
yeah, they're a blessing.
makes me not feel alone, which is nice.
Yeah, no, you can like read a lot of this stuff. Excuse me. You can read a lot of this stuff by yourself, and you think like, oh, I'm atomized in the small world, and that's the way they want you to think. That's what this big corporate media does. But if you can find some way around it, you see all these other fellow travelers and stuff like that. I've ran into a lot of them, so very fortunate.
Let's see if you can pull up this article. It's called "Flipping a Switch Inside the Head," and I think that's probably why I got booted out. Maybe because I had too much on I overloaded my computer or something. I'm not sure. Maybe I said something right.
Seek. Is that it?
Yes.
New technology. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting article. Again, this was in 2017, right around the same exact time that MIT came out with their quantum tattoo. And this gets into a rat research study to where they were able to manipulate the mind and the thoughts of these rats with graphene. And how they were doing this and why they were doing this is they were using graphene to hit certain receptor sites in the brain that would initiate and stimulate the thought of hunger. And they were both doing this to make rats hungry, and they were doing this to try and suppress their appetite at the same time. Meanwhile, with all that going on, they were also trying to justify how they can control the metabolism of a rat, if that makes any sense. So the capabilities of quantum is incredible. Uh, I mean, graphene, right? And especially, you know, quantum graphene quantum dots is even more remarkable. But they were able to deliver signals with graphene, and they were able to uh, stimulate certain receptor sites with these things because they carry an electrical charge. Uh, Graphene does. You know,
Jeez.
carbon is very well at keeping an electrical charge, and then you can that's all how the brain works. That's how the body really works at some point. It's all electricity, and it's either with your brain and your heart, it just deals with what's called electrolytes, and then there's also receptor sites that get stimulated by these electrolytes. It's in the name of it, electrolyte, that carries an electrical charge, and this is how the body communicates. But if you see the title, it says flipping a switch inside the head. This means exactly what they're saying. And what they were doing, I think, in this study was taking ownership of the agency over the rat's conscious free will, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It's almost like, and this is where it gets kind of spiritual, almost. But there's a movie by Denzel Washington. It's called Manchurian Candidate, and it's about basically a military team. They go out on a mission, and everyone kind of comes back home, but totally, uh, they something's gone wrong. People are dead, this and that. There's like a gap in between of them going there and coming back. But what actually happened was is this team went out and they were captured and they were used for an MK Ultra experiment. And this MK Ultra experiment dealt with occult practices. There were witches involved and all this kind of stuff. And they were implanting technology into the brains of these soldiers, into seeing how they can actually manipulate and control their minds and to do what they want to do with these soldiers. And they were controlling them just like they would, for example, with some of these stories that we see. And you do an awesome job at this, man. You cover a lot of uh, you know de- just massacres, right? And things where MK Ultra, like Bluebird and Artichoke and all these things, they're trying to manipulate and take control of people psychologically, and I think they can use technology to do the same thing. They don't necessarily need to brainwash somebody through our sensory system anymore. They don't have to do it through occult practices anymore. They can actually most likely do it with technology, if you kind of get where I'm going with this.
There's just they've gone through a new iteration of mind control, since the 50s. So it's
Yeah.
graphene and radio waves and subtle waves. They were really experimenting with that stuff 50 years ago. So God only knows how advanced voice to skull is and all that stuff. They were
Hmm.
really doing that. So who knows what they can do through your phone, your computer. There's been some really interesting. I can't remember. He's kind of a stage magician, hypnotist, but he's shown like how a video game can hypnotize somebody, put somebody into a somnambulistic state. It's really incredible.
Yeah, and it says here that the biologists were able to turn neurons on or off in in the live animal at will. So again, this is just something to think of when we want to put these things in our body. What is out there that works with this at a technological level that will switch us on and switch us off, or completely detach us from the human condition? And it's almost like where that verse in the Bible where it says, men seek death and they can't find it, and these are the people with the mark. It's almost like they're I don't know if people are familiar, and I always talk about movies a little bit to try and illustrate what it is I'm trying to say.
I
It's
do
almost like
too.
the movie Get Out, or even the movie as of recent called Weapons.
Yeah.
Well, frequencies played into this. There's either frequencies from bells being used in these movies, or the frequency of a spoon going around the rim of a coffee cup. There's a frequency that totally flips a switch and detaches you from who you really are, and now the occultist is able to control you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weapons is basically about. I don't
Dude.
want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it for the guests, but yeah, I mean, it's something else. I thought it was pretty clever. We are at the 90-minute mark, Stephen. Are
Hey,
you? Are
that
we
that was the last thing, man, I wanted to
good? Cool.
share. and
Great
and
presentation. Great responses. Everybody liked it. I loved it. It was great. Great having you on. Where can people find you? I mentioned it at the intro, but maybe you could just repeat that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, William. This was a lot of fun. You have a great show. You're absolutely doing a great job with your work. I'm a fan of your work, and I'm a listener as well. So I get this is just a pretty cool opportunity to be on here, sitting across from you, and going over some of these topics. And I've got many more other things I'm working on. I'm starting to merge a bunch of things with this topic. If anything, this topic is the foundation that has just rabbit holed me into many different things. I did mention it a little earlier with Eastern religion and Mystery Babylon and all of that, and how this kind of does work with this in tandem. But for my show, it's The Biblical Hitmen. That's MEN. I'm on YouTube, I'm on audio platforms, I'm on social media. So wherever you folks consume all your content, that's pretty much where the show is. And I can just only encourage people if to leave a 5-star review for this show, because this show is awesome, and drop comments and all of that, and help out just what it is we do. And I can only just encourage the same for my platform as well.
Yeah, check it out. The Biblical Hitman. Is there a place where people can reach you? I know that you're on X, or do you have a website or anything like that?
No, I don't have a website or anything. I mean, feel free to email me. I encourage my guests to email me a lot of research, a lot of things. I'm starting to incorporate lives into my show as well. For video side of things, I'm only on YouTube right now. I've learned how to get around some of the censorship. And so with the YouTube stuff, you might get maybe some words muted here and there, but I'm usually always in the lives to give context to certain things and to just chat it up with anybody that's there. I'm also working on the live, like I said, doing all that just so I can interact with people in the audience. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on audio platforms, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can pretty much consume all your podcast content.
Yeah, so you can reach out to him there. Again, the guest is Stephen DeMatties. His last name is spelled Dematties, and talked about the mark of the beast. So go check out the Biblical Hitman, guys. A lot of great guests. Some people I've had, and I've listened to a number of his shows. So glad to have him. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you,
Thanks for
sir.
your time. Really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
everybody.